Since ancient times, whenever vampires were mentioned, people immediately thought of a creature who always wore a high-collared cloak, specialized in sucking human blood, and only operated at night. But I, the main character of the story, am quite different. I am a true otaku named Staz. Instead of eating or sucking human blood, I am obsessed with things created by humans, especially Japanese products. The reason I don't suck blood is quite simple. Sucking human blood is an old-fashioned affair of the old generation, and I don't like it. Besides, the sunlight in the human world is quite strong nowadays, and going to the human world costs a lot of money. Moreover, I am also a busy person in the demon world, maybe a restaurant worker or something. But no, I am the great boss of the demon world, leading a large gang. Just as I was thinking, one of my underlings called me immediately. He reported that he had bought the DVD I ordered, but something even better happened. It was a human girl. It seemed she got lost and ended up here. My underlings didn't know what to do, so they reported it and handed the girl over to me. Just hearing the words "human girl" made me freeze. A moment later, I snapped out of it and hurriedly ordered my underlings to bring the girl straight into my room. At this moment, I was extremely nervous and flustered because this was the first time I had met a human girl, and she was even Japanese. I was so flustered I didn't know what to wear to meet her. Then I took out my anime collection to show her, and music too. The closet was giving me a headache. Meanwhile, the girl was being brought up in the elevator, surrounded by my underlings who were shooing away. While I was still struggling with clothes as if preparing for a date, my underlings had already brought the merchandise right to the place. As soon as I saw the girl, I immediately flew out of the room. All my brothers only came this far to accompany me. Now, only 2 people remained in the room, but my heart was still pounding. Outside, my underlings were chatting, wondering if I would lock myself up alone. But today, the great boss seemed quite different. He looked like he was coming into the depths of winter. While they were still chatting, suddenly a certain figure appeared in the area. "Get those underlings out of here and let that guy open a shop here." The guy woke up and said he didn't know where he was and wanted to meet the boss to ask for permission. When he found out the boss was busy, he immediately changed his attitude. He used force to call me out. Meanwhile, I was still talking with a girl, mainly about games. While talking, my underlings urgently called me. I annoyed him with a few words and then pretended to be dead to hang up the phone. After that, I continued the conversation, but the girl reminded me to care more about my comrades. Her gentle words and her sparkling eyes stirred my heart, awakening the dormant vampire instincts within me. And now I realize that I am in love. Therefore, I swear to protect her until the end. I will never bite her soft, pale neck. And because of love, I will do anything she asks. That's why I finally got up to rescue my underlings. As I jumped out of the window, right behind me a strange vine was climbing up to the room. Seeing me arrive, the guy revealed his excitement. He was excited and attacked relentlessly, but I didn't even care. Just moving closer with a gentle wave of my hand, I shattered his mass of climbing vines. Then, with just a simple stomp of my foot, I finished off the one who dared to cause trouble in my territory. After that, I returned to the room with the underling who captured the vine. But as soon as I opened the door, a scene hit my eyes that made me unable to close my mouth. The vine's transformed body was writhing in my room, then spat out a skeleton. I walked over and stomped on the vine. But the only thing I recognized was the girl's clothes, stained with blood and dirt. I regretted not doing anything sooner, only for her to become a skeleton. But then the creature quickly moved toward the bed. The girl was still there, but completely naked. We were both embarrassed. Was it another person? Or did the vine just eat her clothes? At this moment, I approached the girl and said that I no longer felt any desire for her. The creature quickly realized that the person in front of them had died and turned into a ghost. Looking at the dry skeleton, my heart filled with sorrow. I made a rash decision that I would resurrect her. No matter the cost, it turned out I couldn't think of a way, and just sat reading manga. At first, I cared a lot about this girl, but now I completely ignore her, and even find her hard to bear. Until now, I still didn't know her name. So I asked. The girl's name is Fuyumi. The girl couldn't believe that I actually intended to save her. So she asked again to be sure, and the answer she received was that I would rely on manga to save her. So Fuyumi had to find a way herself. Suddenly, she remembered something. It turned out she remembered the way to this place. Then Fuyumi led me along. When we arrived, I was astonished to see it. This was the highest level of spatial magic I had ever seen. After saying that, Fuyumi intended to go in alone, but I stopped her. At first, I didn't plan to go, but since I've seen it, I can't return empty-handed. Therefore, I decided to go with her. But the main reason was still for the games and music of the human world. But before going, I had to check first. Then I took Fuyumi to a coffee shop. The owner here is a three-eyed girl, and her pet is the same. Her name is Sati. I wanted to ask her to check if Fuyumi could return to the human world. Afterward, she and her pet merged, releasing a dazzling beam of light with magic. After checking, it was confirmed that Fuyumi could go to the human world, but should not stay too long. Then, when they found out that I would also go there, everyone panicked. If I left, everything would fall into chaos because no one would be looking after this territory. Fortunately, at that time, Deku brought back a minion who could shapeshift into me, so everything was resolved, and everyone held a farewell party for me before I left. The next day, both of us were fully prepared to go to the human world. But I was so excited that I forgot the main purpose. After both of us stepped through the door, where they arrived was Fuyumi's room. I was a bit disappointed to see it was so simple. I thought she was being held captive. After asking about Fuyumi's daily life, I decided to go to her school to check the situation. As they walked down the stairs, they met Fuyumi's father. He immediately questioned where she went yesterday, who the boy she brought back was, and why she didn't go to school yesterday. Fuyumi was flustered, not knowing how to answer. So I spat something directly into her father's face, which completely changed his attitude, and he left for work immediately. It turned out that the drug was a substance secreted from my saliva, which could control humans, but it had no effect on demons. After that, both of us went out to prepare to go to school. I reminded her that because I am a demon, she must be careful not to attract attention when outside. But this guy's eyes lit up with everything he saw, and he took out his camera, snapping photos everywhere. Fuyumi reminded me that doing so could expose us, so I took out that spray again and sprayed all the places where I had caused trouble. Meanwhile, in the demon world, my underling Yoshida was trying his best to imitate me perfectly. Back to Fuyumi. She was sitting in class. Her daily life seemed normal, but when talking, she noticed that everyone's memories seemed to be jumbled. That made her feel alienated from everyone. So afterward, she cried and told me. But I comforted her that thanks to those sprays, everything was still under control. If not for them, would she have to tell everyone that she had died and was now a ghost? But Fuyumi asked me to return everyone to normal because if things continued like this, she would disappear completely. I acted as if I agreed with her disappearing. Then I told her to look at her own body. At that time, Fuyumi realized her feet had disappeared. Her hands, too. This is normal for a low-level demon in the human world. Although the check earlier said she was fine, Sadi had also warned that Fuyumi could not stay too long. After that, I intended to leave, letting Fuyumi fulfill her wish to disappear, but now she was begging me, pleading with me because I had lied earlier. Seeing this, I bit my finger until it bled and gave it to her to lick. The scene of her receiving blood from me was somewhat strange. Thanks to the magic in my blood, it helped her restore her limbs. Therefore, from now until she is resurrected, I will be her blood bank. Afterward, I left, letting Fuyumi recover on her own. As I left, I thought back to my own words, and I decided that if I could save her, I would drain Fuyumi, turning her into a corpse. Although that was just a thought, who knows if I would actually do that. Even though this place is full of humans, I don't feel the excitement and thrill I felt when I first met Fuyumi. Perhaps she has something special for me. Therefore, first, I have to find a way to resurrect her properly. After Fuyumi wakes up, I plan to take her back to the demon world. As soon as we returned to Fuyumi's room, we were both surprised to see some girl jumping on the bed. It turned out her name was Belle, the owner of that portal, and also the owner of superior space magic. I thought she intentionally placed the space portal in my territory to lure me here and then take over my territory. But actually, Belle had no such intention. She simply wanted to travel to many places to explore and hunt for treasures. And now she has come here to demand payment from me. This is because I passed through the portal without permission. The fee for one person to pass through is 30,000 yen. For two people, it's 60,000. When I heard that, I felt like exploding. So she took the opportunity to sell information about my territory to other bosses to conquer it. Seeing that I intended to attack her, Belle instantly transported me outside the alley. Then she took the opportunity to help Fuyumi. Usually, an ordinary person would be scared and run away, but Fuyumi was too stubborn, just standing there trembling. As for me, while walking around looking for a way home, Belle suddenly appeared and pranked me. I tried kicking the door frames where she appeared, But with her space magic, she kept reappearing, making it impossible for me to hit her. Then Belle unexpectedly appeared behind me with a gun, and Fuyumi was taken hostage. After that, she ordered me to go to the basement of a house to bring something back here, while Fuyumi was left behind to listen to her tell a secret that only girls know. Meanwhile, I went downstairs and was quite surprised to find a place belonging to the demon race in the human world. After that, the shop owner led me into a room. The story Belle intended to tell Fuyumi was that she couldn't just leave the portal anywhere because it had been stolen and brought here. That's why she couldn't put it away. Therefore, if she found the culprit who did this, Belle would teach him a lesson by turning him into her minion. As for me, the shop owner showed me some loot. Then, while I was distracted, he punched me and challenged me to a fight. I recognized this guy. Indeed, the old man charged in to attack again, but this time his whole body seemed to freeze. Then with a light punch, I sent him flying and lying prone on the floor. After that, I intended to bring the loot back to Belle, but she suddenly appeared saying it wasn't needed anymore. It turned out what she wanted was a person with great power. So from the beginning, she was just testing me, and now Belle seems to have become friends with Fuyumi. When she learned that I intended to find a way to resurrect her, she said there was a book about it called the Resurrection Book, but she had already sold it. She didn't remember who she sold it to, but she only remembered that it was sold in the Western Underworld. In the Western Underworld, the leader there is the Wolf King. He and his people always follow a principle. When words are useless, violence reigns supreme. I was telling everyone about the way to get there, but the other three people didn't seem to care at all. Belle said that since I am a friend of the Wolf King, asking for help would be easy, but that was a long time ago. Now both are bosses of different territories, so it's a bit awkward. I intended to ask Belle to take me there, but she refused. Angry, I rushed in to punch her, but Belle used her power to block the punch and threw me back into the underworld. Being a boss and having to endure such humiliation made me furious. I decided to take my companion to the Western Underworld myself. Deku's job was to call a taxi. It turned out the taxis there were carriages pulled by two monsters. These things run extremely fast, but charging is extremely slow. After everything was said, everyone got into the vehicle. Fuyumi seemed unfamiliar with it and was a bit uneasy. The three-eyed beast of the soda race was worried that it would be completely covered in the mud from its owner. I ordered it to use its eyes to see the way and avoid the territories of other bosses, but it refused. So I was about to make it bathe in the mud. Seeing that, it got scared and finally used its clairvoyance to see the way. Suddenly, it noticed someone walking ahead, and the carriage was about to run into him. Coincidentally, that person was none other than the Wolf King of the Western Underworld and his younger brother. Their group was also planning to take a taxi, but seeing the carriage rushing towards them without any sign of stopping, the boss rushed forward and slashed the carriage in half. Fortunately, I managed to get everyone on board and jump out. After that, the two bosses clasped hands and charged at each other. One would think they would greet each other with punches, but unexpectedly, it was just a friendly handshake. Ludo and Fuyumi were astonished, because they had never seen their boss so happy. Without further ado, I immediately brought up the matter I needed help with, which was finding the Resurrection Book. But Wolf wouldn't do it for free, therefore, I decided to stick to the old way. The two of us would compete against each other. If I won, Wolf had to help me find the book, but if Wolf won, I would hand Fuyumi over to him. Seeing that, Wolf approached Fuyumi to check her out, even though she wasn't his type. If given the choice, only a fool would refuse. The seemingly serious competition turned out to be bowling. In that game, I was confident that I would definitely win. My clan specializes in long-range magic, so I could easily control the bowling ball to knock everything down, while Wolf's clan, with close-range physical magic, would be at a disadvantage. But the calculation of a demon who is said to be unable to lose a single point was wrong. Wolf invited me to box. It seemed like an unfair fight for me, but for Fuyumi's sake, I wouldn't lose. At this time in the ring, Wolf waited in vain, not seeing me anywhere. Instead, Fuyumi appeared in a swimsuit with the duty of holding the signboard. The moment Wolf saw her, he started bleeding from the nose, just like his friend, who was supposed to be the top only by blinking. Wolf found her too cute, like a little puppy, making him want to go to jail immediately. So both became more determined to win. As soon as the match started, both charged at each other with fierce punches. But physical strength was Wolf's advantage. Therefore, after a short time, he landed a knockout blow on me. Fortunately, I managed to stand up at the last second thanks to the regeneration ability of a demon. Seeing that, Wolf intended to punch me until I couldn't recover anymore, and then charged in to attack continuously. My companions were worried that I would soon run out of magic and die in the ring. But something unexpected happened. After a series of punches, Wolf suddenly stumbled at the edge of the ring, looking like he was about to collapse. Then he realized that a demon's fang was biting his shoulder. It turned out that from the beginning I had bitten him once, and that fang was draining his magic. The more Wolf attacked, the more magic he lost, meaning all the damage I sustained was actually in vain. While Wolf was gradually weakening, taking advantage of that opportunity, I rushed forward, landed a punch, and finished by landing a decisive blow that knocked Wolf down. That blow shocked everyone so much that even the referee forgot to count. Fortunately, Wolf still managed to struggle to his feet. He then played his trump card, transforming into a werewolf to fight seriously with me, but before landing a real blow, he used his mouth. Wolf's skill in babbling annoyed me so much that I almost used my ultimate technique to stop his heart, but Wolf kept talking, which only made me angrier. Fortunately, Fuyumi stepped up and slapped him once to wake him up. Otherwise, a real boss would have been killed. After that, she told the two of them that since they were friends, they shouldn't fight because of her, and started crying. At that crucial moment, Belle appeared, opened a space portal, and transported everyone to another place so they could talk more easily. In another place, Wolf and I realized that the one behind everything was Belle. She was the one who said the book was there, and also the one who changed bowling to boxing. After that, she appeared and handed me the book. It turned out she had kept it all this time and lied to me. All of us opened it to study, but after only a few moments, we all reacted the same way. We didn't understand anything. Belle also retrieved it and tried to read it, but its content was all nonsense and chaotic. The three-eyed beast guessed that the book was written in code. Their mission was to find keywords and arrange them, or find someone to decipher it. The fastest decipherer would certainly be the author of this book. But when I saw the author's name, I froze. It turned out the author was my older brother. His name is Staz, a noble demon residing in the northern region of the underworld called the upper underworld. Everyone felt awkward because he was someone I knew. But mentioning my brother made me tremble. Meeting my brother is definitely something only I can handle, because that place is the upper underworld, reserved only for noble and high-ranking demons. Ordinary demons are not allowed in, but I hesitated and didn't want to go. Seeing that, Wolf could no longer tolerate his friend's determination. Earlier, he was even full of animosity, almost killing his friend over a girl, and now he is trembling in front of his useless older brother. Hearing that, I reluctantly agreed, accepting that I would go there. At this time, it was Belle's turn to refuse to take me there. Once again, it was left to Wolf. He shouted in Belle's face, making her unable to say anything other than agree. Ludo and Fuyumi fell silent in shock because this guy was too rude. Just as Belle started creating a portal, before it was fully connected, Wolf threw his friend straight into it. Unfortunately, the place I arrived at was Belle's private room. After those two left, Wolf and Ludo went shopping for food and clothes for Fuyumi. Meanwhile, I also finished taking a bath in Belle's room. After that, it was her turn to bathe. But I felt something strange, as if Belle had some hidden motive against me. As for Wolf, the three-eyed beast asked why Wolf, who also belonged to the noble demon race, had left the upper demon realm. But in reality, he was a hybrid, the product of a werewolf and a strange demon race, which is why he was exiled. Hearing this, the three-eyed beast recounted a story that the hybrid werewolf, driven from his home, tried to conquer the lords and become a noble demon to be accepted by his parents. Fuyumi, upon hearing the story recounted by the beast, was moved and pledged her full support to Wolf. After Belle finished bathing, she dressed scantily and tried to seduce me. Seeing this, I panicked and quickly retreated to keep a distance, asking her what she really wanted. Seeing this, Belle told me the truth. She said she felt a great power suppressed within me and wanted to see it. Unfortunately, that power had been sealed by my older brother. Mentioning my brother brought back horrifying memories of my youth, leaving me stunned. Belle kept calling me until I woke up. When asked why my magic was sealed, I said my brother tried to kill me to steal that power. Every kind of strange poison or experiment my brother could think of, he tested on me, until one day he announced the experiment was successful and stabbed me in the heart to seal my power, and that pellet could only be removed by Staz. Returning to the present conversation, I saw Belle ordering food on her phone, which made my eyes light up in surprise and excitement as I eagerly asked what it was and begged to share. Belle realized I was a complete fool, and perhaps I wasn't the one who stole her magic. Although I possessed great power, if I couldn't use it, I wasn't dangerous. Nevertheless, Belle truly wanted to see that power. She wanted to explore it because she was a true treasure hunter. Afterward, at dinner, Belle opened my eyes, letting me try sushi. Trying it for the first time, I was a bit confused. I even thought it would move on a conveyor belt. After one bite, I immediately judged Belle to be a good person, judging too quickly just because of the food. As for Wolf, they were also eating. But Fuyumi was so worried that she chewed on the tablecloth and suddenly collapsed asleep. So Wolf had to carry her to bed but felt something strange behind her back. Then, the three-eyed beast was horrified to see Fuyumi's leg gradually disappearing. The next day, Belle took me to a distant mansion, but it was still very far away. Only after making sure I left did she calmly disappear. After that, I quickly moved stealthily, as it would be terrible if my brother and another person discovered me. Just as I finished speaking, a flying stick came from somewhere. It turned out to be my younger sister, Liz. Meanwhile, Wolf was rushing, carrying Fuyumi on their back, looking for a doctor familiar with the body of a demon race. Although he wasn't very trustworthy, he could provide them with some information. He was a visitor in the field of magical science. His name was Franken. This guy was really a jerk. While treating a failed experiment, he kept complaining and then gave the subject a bomb, a permanent vacation ticket. As for me, I was struggling against my sister's barrage of magic sticks, not knowing why she hated me so much, not even admitting I was her older brother. It turned out it was because I dared to offend her eldest brother, whom Liz deeply admired. And so she had been waiting for this day for a long time. The day she could use her stick to kill me in a spectacular way. Saying that, she swung her stick down, creating a summoning spell that brought a giant pile of dirt down on me, throwing me into one of the worst dungeons in the demon world. This place was called Liz's Playground. Coming to see my brother to ask about resurrection magic and getting back the pellet now seemed impossible for me. At this time, Wolf had brought Fuyumi to Franken for an examination. Meanwhile, I was trying hard to break the collar, but it wouldn't even bend, let alone break. Then a button on the statue in the back of the cell caught my attention. The surrounding prisoners urged me to press it. As soon as I did, they cheered with excitement. The statue in the back of the cell opened up, revealing the arena where prisoners challenged the prison's fighters to win their freedom. Those fighters were extremely formidable, strong enough that even a boss like me was defeated utterly, without being able to land a single hit. After the fight, they carried my body back and threw me into the cell again. If this continued, I would probably die here before I could resurrect Fuyumi. As for Fuyumi, Franken was examining her carefully. He said that in her body, besides the power of the demon race, there was also the power of another demon race, specifically that of a ghoul. Did I really eat her? Wolf and the three-eyed beast were confused, unsure if Fuyumi's body was male or female. But in reality, she simply carried ghoul magic within her. Normally, each demon race absorbs demonic energy from the demon world and creates its unique kind of power. But in Fuyumi's case, she had two sources of demonic power inside her. They mixed together, causing her leg to disappear. Simply put, it was an overload, because for a normal demon's body, the power of a ghoul is too great. But there was something strange in that Fuyumi could actually absorb that power. If handled correctly, she might even be able to control the ghoul power on her own. Returning to me, I was continuously challenging the zombie fighters while Liz casually drank tea. Suddenly, my brother Braz appeared. He realized his sister was hiding something. After asking, he learned there was an intruder. But instead of killing him, Liz threw him in prison. Braz was very confused, not understanding why the little girl did that, and kept asking. Suddenly, one of the demon teachers reported that the new prisoner was extremely stubborn. No matter how much they beat him, he wouldn't give up. Hearing this, Braz became curious and wanted to see for himself. Meanwhile, Wolf couldn't believe that the way to save Fuyumi was to kill me. Simply put, Fuyumi was currently in a phantom state. She could become a ghoul if she ate the person who gave her that power. But the more Wolf listened, the angrier he got. Grabbing Franken's collar, he demanded an answer. If they did that, I would die without my magic. But Franken argued that I would still live in Fuyumi. Returning to me, my brother had come to see me. I was on the verge of death after being beaten 10 times. Seeing this, Braz instantly shot me, but those bullets were magic bullets. They restored my demonic power. Although they caused pain, my ghoul body would recover soon. The zombies were scared when they realized the person they had beaten 10 times was the brother of their two masters. As for me, after pulling out the resurrection scroll, I asked about its contents. As for Wolf, he was confused, not knowing who to choose. When Belle appeared, she said that Franken hadn't told the whole truth. There were other ways to save Fuyumi. Hearing just that made Wolf furious. He knocked Franken to the ground and forced him to reveal the truth, or he would be beaten to a pulp. Meanwhile, Braz refused to explain the contents of the scroll to me. The reason was that Braz would gain something by telling me, but listening to their conversation, it seemed he wasn't as evil and wicked as I had described. Seeing Braz happily talking with Liz made the little girl jealous. She got angry and burned 2 zombies to ashes. The little girl said that since I couldn't defeat the demon race, she wouldn't admit me as a noble demon like them. But Braz objected, because the blood flowing in my veins was pure ghoul blood, meaning I was stronger than her. Although that was also wrong because my power was only sealed, and if released, it would surpass Liz many times over. Hearing this, the girl got angry and attacked both of them. Liz thought that if I left, Braz would pay more attention to her, but he never truly paid attention to her. He was looking at my old pictures, not even knowing if his sister liked or disliked them. Clearly, there was some favoritism here. I said that my sister acted this way just because of such trivial reasons, throwing me into prison. Liz claimed I couldn't understand the girl's feelings. But did Liz ever understand my feelings? After that, Braz agreed to carry out my request, but in return, he also had something he wanted me to do. On the other side, Wolf finally forced Franken to reveal the truth. It turned out he had deliberately said those things for his own purposes. He actually created a monster. And coincidentally, that was also the problem Braz wanted me to help with. 3 days ago, in the demon world, an artificial demon named Akim was created. It was a work created by Franken himself, combining body parts from different demon races to create a super demon. Afterward, it escaped the research facility and announced it wanted to find suitable, strong body parts for itself. Before Franken could stop it, this creature used spatial magic and disappeared. Therefore, both Wolf and I were tasked with capturing this artificial demon. Then Braz recounted that when I was young, I possessed immense magical power. I could even compress a giant rock with a 5 meters radius into the size of a marble, but the consequence of every use was that I would pass out. And if this continued, I could die at any moment. To prevent that, Braz had to shoot a bullet into my heart to suppress my power. But now, Braz believes I can control that power and use it to eliminate the artificial life form. With my sealed power now unleashed, I can easily blow away the 2 zombies that once beat me to a pulp. I feel exhilarated to regain my strength. The artificial life form is the perfect opponent to test my long-suppressed power. My brother Braz hopes I can succeed in defeating it. After that, Braz will tell me how to resurrect the living. Now, Wolf is facing off against that annoying, artificial life form. It continuously attacks him with a space ring. Wolf immediately counterattacks, breaking its arm. Yet somehow, it manages to twist its torso to use the ring to shoot the statue. Its limbs are nothing more than decorative parts controlled by magic, not bone or nerves. Its true body is a ghost controlling this shell. Wolf has no choice but to transform into a wolf to fight it with all his might, even though he only has 3 minutes in that transformed state. Meanwhile, Belle and Franken are having their secret conversation. Belle knows Franken is waiting for Wolf to lose so he can repair Akim's toy without being disturbed. From my observations, Belle also clearly realizes that Franken recognizes the artificial life form Akim can use space magic. She demands Franken reveal everything he knows immediately. Before Wolf's time runs out, he had sliced Akim into 3 pieces. But, of course, that attack had no effect. Akim quickly collected the scattered body parts and reassembled them. I appeared just as Wolf's transformation time ended and took over the fight. The 2 young men who just met immediately pushed Akim aside and started quarreling loudly. Akim felt violated and immediately attacked both of them. Belle opened a large screen for Fuyumi and the monkey to watch Wolf's battle. She was slightly confused, not understanding why Wolf returned to human form sooner than expected. I showed a few gestures, and Wolf then trusted me enough to hand Akim over to me to deal with. I alone can handle this nuisance. Our battle shook the earth. I struck a classic anime pose attempting to mimic Son Goku's Kamehameha to blow Akim away. But before I could launch the attack, Akim knocked me down with a single blow, sending me tumbling across the ground. With all my tricks, I only deserve to be called a third-rate warrior. Those crude words from this low-class creature truly infuriated me. That Kamehameha belongs to the strongest man in the world, whom I respect. Akim has no right to insult him. I swear I will kill him with the ultimate technique created by the very man Akim called third rate. Just hearing that made Akeem's whole body tremble with excitement, leaving his mouth agape as his body warped. My power is stronger than Braz ever imagined. I deserve to be the executioner of the enemy. The swirling torrents of energy around my body showed who would win this battle. Before long, I shredded Akeem into hundreds of pieces before he could even blink. Akeem used up all the magic in his body and had no intention of fighting anymore, but I wouldn't allow it. I forced him to stand up and continue the fight. I will make him die under my signature technique. I raised my hand and crushed Akeem's heart into dust. The monstrous body quickly dissolved into ashes. After the battle ended, Wolf suddenly came to find me to fight again. I never knew that Bell had used space magic to collect Akeem's body parts for Franken before I could completely destroy them. In truth, Akeem's space power was just a cheap imitation. Bell's was the real deal. Bell wanted to know what ghost Franken used to create Akeem. Previously, when Franken's research hit a dead end, he couldn't find any part to hold Akeem's body together because it kept falling apart uncontrollably. At that moment, he received a gift from a mysterious person. Inside the box was the body of a space magic user. Belle wanted to find the culprit who stole her magic, but Franken knew nothing. Just then, Braz and Liz appeared. He came to announce that Franken and Akeem would face justice for disturbing the peace of the spirit world. Liz had wanted to punish both for a long time, but this time, Braz only came to warn them. Upon hearing the order, Liz immediately rushed over to give them a punitive blow. Meanwhile, Wolf and I were still relentlessly attacking each other, with Wolf being beaten to a pulp by me. Ever since he was born, Wolf has always fought for Fuyumi, but I've never seen him fight for her anywhere. Wolf said nothing, just giving a cold smirk. The day I fell from the sky, the first person I met was Wolf. He tied me up and asked for my 18 generations of life savings just to give me money. Unfortunately, I was dirt poor. Wolf proposed we fight a duel, and if I lost, I would become his servant. Strangely, after only a few blows, I surrendered. Wolf was angry that his opponent wouldn't admit defeat. Clearly, this guy falling from the sky meant I was a high-ranking demon. Yet, this high-ranking demon surrendered so easily. I did it because I didn't want to kill Wolf. Wolf always thought himself strong, and even as a hybrid, he never felt such a vast difference. However, my words wounded him, making him feel vulnerable and fragile. Even with my power suppressed, Wolf was not worthy to fight me. Wolf accepted the result of this battle and turned to leave, swearing that next time he would make me fight for real. This sibling scene was witnessed entirely by my brother, Braz. He never thought I would have friends, nor Belle either. I looked at the two of them with disdain, only wanting to get rid of them. Braz showed up because of his promise to me about resurrecting a human. Fuyumi was eagerly waiting for me to make a mistake and not arrive on time so he could put me on the blacklist. Who would have thought? Just as he was bad-mouthing me, the protagonist appeared and heard everything. I immediately snatched Fuyumi's convenient magic potion bottle and downed it in one gulp. I brought Braz here to discuss Fuyumi's resurrection, but my brother was only focused on flirting, stroking her hair, and touching her face. That scene made my blood boil, and I immediately stepped in to warn Braz not to touch my girl. Braz challenged me, asking what I could do to save Fuyumi without him. My method was to become her blood bank until she was resurrected. The moment Fuyumi drank my blood, she fainted in bliss like a kitten. This method was effective, but only a temporary solution. Braz led us to the place where Fuyumi's body was, the place where we first met her, and where I lost that person. That place was none other than where my subordinates gathered. Braz couldn't believe his brother was associating with that evil gang. While Braz's attention was elsewhere, Belle warned me about the danger posed by my brother. Earlier, Braz had said something that caught Belle's attention. He knew how important Fuyumi was to me. Certainly Belle's face looked very solemn then. I advised her not to worry too much. I understand my brother better than anyone. Belle asked me to give Fuyumi a bell. If Fuyumi rang it 3 times, Belle would come. I turned back and gave Braz Fuyumi's restored skeleton for the resurrection process. Braz pulled out a gun and arrogantly demanded to undress her to make the job easier. I was very suspicious of my perverted brother. If Braz crossed the line, I wouldn't hesitate to act. Braz wanted to take a blood sample from Fuyumi and completely restore her by transferring her soul into a completely recreated body, but they still needed to check the soul. While Fuyumi was half awake, I lifted her shirt without hesitation for Braz to take a sample. Liz silently watched her 2 perverted brothers. After getting the sample, Braz returned home to study further. I will continue to be Fuyumi's blood bank until she is resurrected. Who would have thought Braz was plotting to steal my power once I became a complete demon? Liz was allowed to stay with me. When the two of us returned, Fuyumi had, unexpectedly, become a waitress at a restaurant. She cooked human food for everyone. Since she didn't have a stomach, Fuyumi cooked every day. She also made 2 extra portions of fried rice for Liz and me. Liz ate while choking back sobs. It turned out my family situation was similar. Their parents died when they were young. I am truly an awkward person. After eating, I didn't know how to praise her or anything. Fuyumi thought my cooking was criticized and was very hurt, but luckily Liz knew how to compliment her with a few gentle words. The noisy scene strangely calmed down. Earlier, Braz had given Liz a ticket back to the spirit world. Braz wouldn't let Liz return to the spirit world until the girl was called. He intended to spend all his time in the laboratory again. Braz needed Liz to watch over me and ensure I wouldn't interfere. Remember, Liz kept crying but kept promising the girl wouldn't return. Liz realized she was not a good little sister and couldn't stay there. I decided to introduce my little sister to the world of precious hobbies, and I succeeded. Liz officially became more addicted to anime than I was. The luxurious life of our good-for-nothing older brother turned out not to be so bad. Then, Fuyumi took Liz for a bath. It was the first time Liz had been cared for like this. Everyone was always afraid of Liz and her brother. Fuyumi comforted this naive girl with a few words. After they finished bathing, my friends and I were still not done playing games. They thought it was best to sleep early and wait for the gods to come. That day was probably Liz's happiest day. The little girl had always been lonely. That night, when Liz woke up, she couldn't find Fuyumi. Only a note asking everyone not to disturb her. They didn't know that a blonde teenager had taken the little girl away. An emergency meeting was held. Liz was sure Fuyumi hadn't left. The girl had previously said she wanted to stay by Liz's side. I also had a bad feeling that Liz's disappearance was unreasonable. Her brother clenched the glass in his hand in anger. I felt extremely guilty. It was because of me that Fuyumi was taken away. When she was about to disappear, I was not by her side. Everyone comforted me for a moment. What they needed to do now was search every corner of the city to find Fuyumi by any means necessary. If they failed, I swore I would use my power to blow this world away. My subordinates immediately dispersed to find Fuyumi. Liz suddenly told me that perhaps Braz knew where Fuyumi was, because when Braz took Fuyumi's magic with that device, he attached a tracking device to her body. Liz didn't say anything because Braz had captured the little girl, and I told Liz to return to the upper world and contact me by phone, saying that if that Braz dared to make a move, I would deal with him. I promised to give Liz all the anime, manga, and games if the little girl helped me find Fuyumi, when in fact, Fuyumi just wanted a hug. Liz tore the ticket Braz had given her, and immediately a winged monster came and took the little girl away. At that moment, my subordinates called to report that, early that morning, someone had seen a strange man lurking around their door. They quickly drew the face of that man and sent it to me, and that man was heading towards the south of the demon world. Liz flew towards the upper world, but when she reached the gate, she was stopped by the guard from entering. At that moment, Burrows from the upper world came to escort the little girl to the old castle, and since her superiors said so, the guard didn't dare to object further. Liz didn't expect Burrows himself would come out to greet her. Burrows was currently working with the goal of maintaining peace in the upper world. She wanted to meet Braz, but he always avoided her. And now she finally had a legitimate reason to go see him and punch those 2 eyes with her special power. The king of Acropolis, whom Liz really wanted to meet once. Although Liz couldn't understand why that arrogant guy wanted to meet Braz, the guy who helped them get their parents back. Before long, they arrived at Braz's old castle. Burrows rang the doorbell repeatedly, but that guy refused to show up, making the girl anxious. She kept pushing the doorbell and warning him not to push her to the point of attacking his cute little sister. Braz spoke through the camera. Liz was about to tell him not to open the door, but Burrows covered the little girl's mouth. And when he saw that, Braz opened the door for her to enter. The moment Burrows saw Braz, she took out a dog collar and locked it around his neck, declaring that as long as he wore that collar, he would be forbidden from using any magic, and if he tried, he would die. However, this pervert didn't follow the plan, and even said he was ready to be her plaything. This shocked Burrows to the point of falling down in disbelief. Braz then invited Burrows to a private place to talk more conveniently. He wasn't angry at Liz for breaking her promise and assigning her the task of watching the house. After Braz left, Liz immediately called me, crying because her own return had caused me to be captured. Liz then went to the surveillance bridge to check where Fuyumi was going. But in vain. Fuyumi was in a very dark place that the little girl couldn't identify. At that moment, a strange guy came to bother me. I showed him the picture and asked about the blonde man I was looking for. The guy thought I was joking and acted arrogant, but I blasted him once and immediately made him obedient. Although he didn't know anything, he was sure that his master knew everything. I wasn't worried that he would play any tricks afterward. I could easily blow him to the other world. The rascal then led me to a very shabby-looking house. Its owner was a snow person, so the house was frozen all year round, and even the owner was shivering in the cold. The rascal's name was Sabo. I showed the snow person the picture of the blonde man, and the snow person recognized him and even knew where he lived. However, he didn't think I could reach that place because it was deep inside a high spatial altitude, one of the 7 wonders of the demon world. No one had ever entered there. He advised me to pray that Nell hadn't gone too far. At that time, Nell was eating a bowl of ramen and suddenly remembered that Fuyumi might also be hungry. Nell ordered another bowl of ramen and used magic to send it into the spatial dimension to Fuyumi. The shop owner, seeing the bowl of ramen disappear, became furious, demanding compensation and threatening to call the police to jail him if he didn't pay. Nell thought the man would be impressed by the magic instead. With no other choice, Nell reached into the spatial dimension to retrieve the bowl of ramen and return it to the shop owner. Fuyumi absolutely refused to return the bowl of ramen, and the two kept pulling. Nell pulled hard enough to pull Fuyumi outside. Taking this opportunity, Fuyumi rang the bell Belle had given her, and because she was outside, both Liz and Belle simultaneously detected Fuyumi's trace. Nell suddenly had a bad feeling and immediately ran away. And just as predicted, the fierce woman appeared and kicked him right in the crotch. Belle came to interrogate her brother for kidnapping Fuyumi, because Fuyumi was an acquaintance of hers and she couldn't let him lay a hand on her. Of course, there had to be a reason for him to appear in front of me. When I sent him multiple messages, he didn't even reply. Since his older sister left home, he had to endure his mother's nagging and do chores for her. Even Belle didn't understand why his mother targeted Fuyumi. At that moment, I rushed in to break up the two siblings. Nell sighed in frustration, not knowing how to explain to her mother that Fuyumi had been snatched by this woman. Belle decided to protect her brother and told him to run away. With Belle's appearance, I thought she was the mastermind. Nell immediately hid in the spatial room where Fuyumi was and tried to hold on there. As soon as I tried to grab Nell's scarf, it suddenly moved on its own, revealing that Nell was controlling the scarf from the inside. Belle took the opportunity to try to keep me down, but surprisingly, I could fly up and avoid her finishing blow. As I flew up to chase the scarf, Belle hit me twice, knocking me unconscious. When I woke up, I was in Belle's space. Belle then explained that this matter had nothing to do with her. I blamed Belle for hindering me and interfering with Braz's plan to resurrect Fuyumi. Hearing this, Belle's heart ached. Wasn't she good enough for me? At this point, I admitted that I viewed Fuyumi as a collectible, a rare item that couldn't be replaced. Hearing these words, Belle, the fierce cat, immediately became enraged. She couldn't accept such a viewpoint, and they both immediately clashed. Belle declared that if I won, she would take me to Fuyumi's location. This foolish demon needed to be taught a lesson. I couldn't understand what I said wrong that made this hot-tempered woman so angry. Meanwhile, Fuyumi was brought by Nell to a safe hiding place. Belle deployed her spatial power, enclosing herself in a cube shape and attacking me from all sides. While I was distracted, she suddenly appeared and hit me multiple times. With the fragments of space around and not knowing where Belle would appear from, I was completely passive and got my clothes torn in several places. Surprisingly, Belle appeared again and engaged me in a direct fight. She advised me to give up as before. Of course, I was completely different now. If Belle could turn her magic into physical matter, so could I. I materialized the hand that firmly grabbed Belle, refusing to let go. If she didn't give up, I would blow off half of her body. At that moment, while I was distracted, Belle retrieved her cube and slipped inside, even abandoning her clothes to escape. By the time I realized it, it was too late, and she had to beg me to return them. Fuyumi was being carried by Nell floating in the sky, although no one knew she was afraid of heights, and wet her pants out of fear. After snatching Belle's underwear, I insisted that she compensate me. I suspected, because she could clearly use spatial power to go home and change into different clothes, and yet she still lingers here. I'm sure that set of lingerie is her treasure. Actually, what Belle is worried about is the diary in the drawer. If that guy reads the love letter she wrote, she'll want to crawl into a hole and never come out. I noticed her strange behavior, especially when I touched the notebook, and it immediately opened to read in front of Belle. Unable to bear it any longer, Belle shouted, threatening that she would confess everything. I instinctively pulled her up, forgetting I was still holding her lingerie, and everything was revealed. Poor me. I was then beaten to a pulp by Belle until she ran out of steam. Afterwards, Belle took me into the forest to chase after Nell and Fuyumi. Actually, Belle felt a little sad because I always only mentioned Fuyumi when she was right there. She didn't want me to ignore her. I immediately apologized to Belle for realizing that I was the cause of all the problems, telling her that if anything happened, she could take out her anger on me. For a straightforward guy like a brick, he actually managed to say a word. A horrifying memory rushed back to Braz as he stood before the castle. Long ago, as a child, he witnessed a white wolf gouge out and suck the still beating heart of his father. Burroughs came along with that crazy pervert, and she was exhausted. She absolutely hated those strange glasses-wearing men. Chief Goyle, Burroughs' subordinate, came to greet Braz. Braz had a good impression of the glasses-wearing man. Goyle would help Braz into the castle and warned him not to cause trouble. Of course, Braz wouldn't do that anytime soon. He didn't want to argue with the king. Besides, he was still wearing the collar that Burroughs had put on him to control his power. So what's there to be afraid of? Fuyumi and Nell finally returned home. Fuyumi met Nell's butler, who looked exactly like her father. The meeting between Braz and the big wolf felt tense. The king was playing golf at the time, surrounded by a group of maids. The big wolf ordered everyone to leave, leaving only Braz. Fuyumi was changed into the nice clothes that Belle's mother had chosen, and it was because of outfits like these that Belle never wanted to go home. At that moment, Belle took me through the dimensional gate. Seeing my tattered appearance, Fuyumi became very worried. I suddenly demanded they not be too intimate right now. Belle and I are madly in love. Belle immediately snapped back and smacked me on the head, leaving the other two speechless. Belle explained that perhaps their father already knew Belle and I were here. If their mother found out I came to take Fuyumi away, things would get very messy. She needed a plan so no accident would occur. By now, Belle might have dimly understood some of what Braz had told her. The plan was already set. Anyone who opposed would be kicked in the crotch like Nell. The butler knocked and informed that the mistress wanted to see Fuyumi. I wanted to go along, but was flatly refused. When the mistress saw Fuyumi, she immediately rushed over to hug her, like a long-lost prodigal child from a noble family. The other three eavesdropping outside were surprised when the butler started talking to me. He said that Braz, my brother, and Mrs. Nina of the Bell family were always exchanging letters. Braz was discussing a serious matter with the king at that time. Recently, a subordinate working secretly for us named Pantom had disappeared. And coincidentally, that man looked exactly like Akeem. Since Braz was no longer hiding anything, he admitted to having executed Pantom and tried to find out the information so the king would summon him here. This was a declaration of war against the king regarding the time his father passed away, and that man became the new king. However, Braz himself had no desire to sit on the throne. Instead, he intended to start something he was creating. And naturally, that thing would be more terrifying than the big wolf. The big wolf sneered and gave him a week to bring anyone who could challenge him to the castle. He declared he would spit in both their faces. After the declaration, Burroughs locked Braz in a room. He pretended to be stabbed and bit his own arm so that demon blood sprayed out like rain. Although he wanted to use magic to heal the wound, the collar Burroughs had put on him prevented it. Having no other choice, Burroughs had to remove the collar. Naturally, she fell into a trap and was poisoned by Braz. When Goyle arrived, he only saw Burroughs lying in a pool of blood. He couldn't accept that the subordinate he cherished had been captured by that ruffian. Braz Goyle immediately summoned a monster to chase after him. Braz was depleted of magic because of the collar, needing to find a place to hide before being found. But he hadn't run far before Goyle caught up, knocking the collar off and causing him to fall headlong onto the roof of the Phantom City. Braz fell into a girl's house and borrowed her phone. Meanwhile, my group had a meeting with Belle's mother, who declared that Fuyumi belonged to her and no one could take the child away without her permission. If they wanted living blood, I could take it from her. Nien then showed a picture of Belle as a child and explained about the doppelganger issue. People say if you meet someone who looks exactly like you, you will die. But actually, that's not how it is. Nien often traveled between the human world and the demon world to eat sweets. And at that time, she met Fuyumi's mother, who was actually Nien's doppelganger. When the two met, they were no longer two separate beings, but merged into one. She became the mother of both children in both the human and demon worlds. Braz called Liz so the girl could bring him a weapon while he went to steal clothes from the bourgeoisie and drank mixed with strong liquor at night. He didn't understand why. Although his disguise was perfect, Goyle's witch could still recognize him. Braz was chased into a dead end. After a few skirmishes, he realized that in his current state, he had no chance of winning. Goyle was angry that this rogue dared to cause trouble for Burroughs. Braz tried to explain, but to no avail. He was hit by Goyle's club, spitting out blood. Goyle wanted to know what he had said to the king and what his intentions were. Goyle never expected that in such a short time, Braz could notice his magic. Braz's ability is blood transference. He can control and move it anywhere, meaning even here, his blood could kill Burroughs. Goyle's strength was weakened by his anxiety and uncertainty. Anger was the necessary fuel for his power. I reflected on the current situation. Although Nin's blood and Fuyumi's blood had similarities, I felt something only Fuyumi possessed. I then asked if Fuyumi had lost her virginity, but before I finished speaking, Belle threw me into another dimension. Belle asked Fuyumi how she felt about it. The suddenness made her unable to react. Perhaps this was why she came to the demon world. Belle thought that once Fuyumi was resurrected, everything would be resolved. Maybe she would forget everything here, but that way, life would return to normal. At that moment, I was colliding with a three-headed dragon, who called himself the creator of this land, none other than Belle's father. In an instant, the old man turned into a middle-aged man wearing a suit. My subordinates were still trying to contact me, but unsuccessfully. Instead, they encountered a big problem. A savage demon clan suddenly surrounded them, demanding allegiance, led by none other than Sabo's son. The old man, upon meeting me, began bragging about his power, and just by looking at his appearance, I knew he was Belle's father. Nell was born when Nin merged with a human body. But both children were precious treasures to him. As for Fuyumi, after discussing with Nin, they agreed to raise the girl. Anyone who dared to object would have to step over his corpse. While speaking, the old man created an invisible barrier around the island where they stood. This was the first time Belle brought a boy home. Normally, the old man would welcome him with open arms. But after hearing that I was also pursuing Fuyumi, things changed. Fuyumi kept looking at the butler and thinking of her father. Perhaps Nin brought this old man here to prevent the two from meeting. Fuyumi was curious about the butler's relationship with her mother, and this question made Belle, sitting beside her, spit out her drink. The butler replied that they only had an employer-employee relationship, but Belle's father thought differently. Fuyumi's father, Yanagi, was the only man he feared. 14 years ago, they sat opposite each other and negotiated over who would stay by Nin's side. Nin had feelings for both men, truly a prime trap girl, hurting both men at the same time. They argued day after day, but never reached a conclusion. Hydra refused to return to the demon world alone without his wife. At that moment, Belle revealed her magical ability when she opened a portal connecting to the demon world. At such an advanced age, doing that was like a real god. But if they weren't careful, Belle might have already brought Fuyumi into the demon world. That shows how difficult it is to raise two children in the same environment at the same time. Yanagi accepted raising Fuyumi in the human world. In a normal environment, she wouldn't need to know anything special. All Yanagi wanted was for the girl to grow up in a normal life. He was determined to raise Fuyumi by his own strength. Even now, Hydra is haunted by those words. Hydra had never heard such things in the underworld. This is a place where everyone only talks about themselves. Yanagi chose his daughter's future over his own happiness. However, it's not that Yanagi wanted to leave his wife. He said that if Hydra made Nin unhappy, Yanagi would not forgive him. Hydra had never feared anyone, but those doubting words made his skin crawl. It struck right at Hydra's heart. I was angry and slammed the door so hard that the hinges almost flew off. Somehow, Goyle and Braz had reconciled and were sitting together talking on the sofa. Goyle habitually went to check on Burroughs' condition to make sure she was safe before he got up to prepare to leave. Braz was worried that some punishment would be handed down to him for causing such a fuss in the city, but the king had not given any orders yet. Goyle really wanted to know why the king acted that way. Braz admitted then that he had lied before about his relationship with the king. Even now, he still vividly remembers the horrific memory of his father's death right before his eyes. If there was one thing he wanted to fix, Braz would want to fix that the most. I am currently being beaten black and blue by my wife. Hydra actually also wanted to find a way to resurrect Fuyumi and bring her back to a normal life like me. However, he heard from my brother that I wanted to resurrect Fuyumi to drink her blood. As a father, he couldn't let that happen. Killing me would be no different from child's play. But unfortunately, the only ghost that could bring Fuyumi back was none other than me. If he kills me now, it won't work. And if he lets me live, it won't be over either. Hydra wants to know what my true feelings for Fuyumi are. I myself don't know what my feelings are. Indeed, at first I wanted to drink her blood, but now I'm not so sure. Hydra suddenly destroyed the hidden camera so Neen couldn't watch anymore. From now on, this will be a conversation between two men. Hydra then took me to his secret base. I couldn't believe the room of this legendary man was so messy. Pictures of his wife were plastered all over. Hydra even played games in front of me. Two guys with silly accents met and had a lot to talk about. Hydra was ready for me and Fuyumi to go together on the condition that I had to swallow this cursed herbal medicine. I ate the stuff and promised that if I broke my word, I would surely die. Hydra demanded that I must obey Fuyumi in two cases. The first is, once I leave this place with Fuyumi, I must have her permission and only leave when she agrees. The second is, if I want to drink Fuyumi's blood, I must have her permission and agreement before drinking. Before these two conditions, I hesitated. Not daring to agree, just waiting, Hydra shoved the herbal medicine into my mouth. I seemed to see the light of the other world, and the deity compelled me to fulfill the oath. Otherwise, I would be pressed down and violated from behind. I slowly drifted into sleep. In fact, this oath game was just a sham set up by the old man. That herbal medicine was just a sleeping pill. I disappeared for a long time, so Fuyumi became a little curious about my whereabouts. Bill took the opportunity when the two of them were alone to ask Fuyumi what feelings she had for me. Fuyumi also didn't know what her feelings were, only that she cared a lot about me, especially because I always helped her with everything. When I opened my eyes, I found myself and Fuyumi near the front gate. Hydra had gone to meet Neen and explained everything. Sebo was plotting to take over my territory while I was away. The vampire stopped him, but he wouldn't listen. Browse was frozen by Goyle after nagging too much. Just then, Liz successfully rescued her brother right in front of Goyle. Fuyumi was changing at the time and was suddenly transported here, so she just ran around in front of me in her nightgown. I took off my coat and gave it to her. Hydra was explaining to Neen the mess he had caused. Fuyumi kept feeling like I was strange, as if I was trying hard to pretend to be a good person. My younger siblings were struggling to fight the ghoul horde. Despite the group's efforts, they eventually won. Wolf was still fighting all over the place. At that moment, he received a letter from the upper circle of the underworld. I talked with Fuyumi about the things I had been through. If she truly wanted to return to life, a bad guy like me wanted to become her hero. Fuyumi really wanted to return, but she didn't want to forget everyone. She remembered and worried about her father, so she shouldn't have such fluctuating emotions. I would take her out of here if she agreed. Fuyumi was so surprised that it took her a moment before she dared to say she agreed. Hydra watched from afar and was very satisfied to have fulfilled his promise. Not long after, I realized my wound hadn't healed at all. Meanwhile, Fuyumi seemed to be in danger because on the other side was the southern underworld, a place connected to the space highway, opening a new path in their journey. However, instead of using teleportation services to return to the eastern underworld area, I decided to launch a surprise attack. Because for a hero, sitting around waiting is not an option. Their ultimate goal is the Ghost Acropolis, where my brother is imprisoned. And then the goals were clearly set, marking the time when the Fearless Squad, a group of dragon slayers who had never actually slain a dragon, waited for the morning sun for an opportunity. At the same time, a message from Neen arrived, revealing that the girl and I had escaped. This aroused suspicion among the Fearless Squad, a group of dragon slayers who had never slain a dragon, making them wonder if their leader was alive. However, another member offered a more positive perspective, saying that the reason no opponent dared to challenge them was because they were too strong, even confidently declaring that they could certainly defeat a dragon. This scenario ignited ambition within them because, if successful, they would become the leading dragon slayers in the Ghost Acropolis, regardless of whether the rumors about their strength were true or not. Thus, they decided to seize this opportunity. Although the target this time was a real dragon, meaning they had almost no hope of winning, their leader turned despair into motivation, asserting that this was their chance to become famous. And then the whole group went up to prove that their title of dragon slayers was not just empty talk. Meanwhile, Sam, another member of the group, was showing off his expensive watch, emphasizing that good things always cost more, for example, an item he was holding. But then, another member felt sleepy and decided to take a nap, which greatly disappointed the leader, who decided he would solve everything himself. At that moment, thoughts flashed through his mind about the carelessness of the group members, about the badges he had stayed up all night making for everyone, and about how he could only make them listen when he activated his ability, something he didn't want to do but had to, because this time the target was a dragon, demanding maximum concentration. However, it turned out to be just a play staged so that their leader could go alone, as the other members knew he wouldn't do it if there was another option. Nevertheless, they still considered him their leader. Meanwhile, in another place, Fuyumi and I were discussing keeping secrets while in the territory of other demon races. However, I thought we needed to act wild to blend in, even giving Fuyumi a toy gun without bullets and tying a string to her so I could know her location at all times. This made Fuyumi feel like she was about to be sold, but I reassured her that I would never do that. Meanwhile, the Fearless Squad had found their target. Fuyumi and I were eating canned beans together, a food the leader of the Fearless Squad hated, which made him even angrier with me. As for Fuyumi, although she didn't like beans, she was too polite to say so. Instead, she made another request, which was to drink a little of my blood. However, I refused, explaining that she still had some blood left from last time and should focus on eating all of her beans. This created an awkward atmosphere between the two of us. And then a strange cat appeared. It struck up a conversation with the leader of the Fearless Squad, revealing that it had a good thing, catnip, an addictive substance, making the leader realize that Fuyumi was being controlled by me in this way. And he decided to intervene, but just as he was about to activate his ability, he suddenly felt a strange sensation. Meanwhile, I was explaining to Fuyumi that her magical power was gradually weakening after each time she received magical power from me, making the interval between each reinforcement shorter. That's why I didn't want her to drink my blood unless it was an emergency. At that moment, Fuyumi realized her body was beginning to disappear, and she started to panic. I scolded her for not saying so sooner, demanding that she show her desire to be resurrected more clearly, that she had to show me her wish to be resurrected. And then I offered my finger, allowing her to drink my blood. However, she drank too much, causing me to stop her because I was worried about her condition, realizing she couldn't hold on for long and that I had to do something. Meanwhile, the leader of the Fearless Squad, after a night out with catnip and losing sight of the target, returned to his group and fabricated a story about having attacked and nearly defeated the target single-handedly. However, the other members exposed his lie, making him extremely embarrassed. After that, Fuyumi and I continued our journey, and Fuyumi still felt bad about what happened the day before. But I didn't care at all, saying it was a necessary part of her resurrection process. And then they saw an adorable kitten. Fuyumi immediately wanted to pet it. Although I warned her about the danger of cats in the demon world, she didn't listen. And then the cat turned out to be the leader of the Fearless Brigade, revealing that it was just a disguise and he wasn't actually a cat, even though his behavior was completely cat-like. After that, I felt overwhelmed and attacked him. However, the leader of the Fearless Brigade easily dodged the attack, revealing that this was a one-sided hunt, a hunt for a ghost and a dragon. And then the entire Fearless Brigade appeared, surrounding me and Fuyumi. I noticed the brigade's delay and decided to solve everything myself. While the Fearless Brigade was busy arguing, it gave me and Fuyumi an opportunity to escape. However, the leader of the Fearless Brigade had anticipated my intention, revealing that his ability was mind reading, allowing him to read the movements of any opponent as long as he had a piece of the victim inside him. And another member of the brigade, Roy, had a chat ability, allowing him to share the information he read with the whole brigade. And then they revealed that one of them had the ability to kill me, and then they started attacking. I easily dodged all their attacks and began to mock their weaknesses. However, they never backed down, and then they suddenly disappeared along with Fuyumi, leaving me in terrible shock and realizing that my wound had not healed at all. Meanwhile, Fuyumi was trapped in another dimension, and the leader of the Fearless Brigade told her that he would release her after they eliminated me. Fuyumi tried to scream for help, but in vain. Her voice couldn't reach my ears, as I was desperately searching for her. Meanwhile, I, having lost too much blood, was growing weak and at risk of death. And then the Fearless Brigade appeared to finish me off. They assumed that a ghost and a dragon were nothing special. However, in desperation, I remembered Fuyumi and found the strength to stand up, surprising the Fearless Brigade. And then I realized that to recover my strength, I could absorb the magical energy of the enemy. After that, I easily defeated them and demanded to know where they had hidden Fuyumi. And after much evasion, they finally revealed her location. I successfully rescued Fuyumi, and Fuyumi realized that the charm I gave her was actually real. And then I decided to hijack the Fearless Brigade's airship to reach the demon world's Acropolis. I explained that infiltrating it was very difficult, but with this airship, they could enter illegally. Meanwhile, on the way, they were detected by a radar system, and a crab-armed guard was ready to greet them. And then Fuyumi and I jumped off the airship, I reassured Fuyumi that I would never let her go again. Meanwhile, the Fearless Brigade, after letting me and Fuyumi escape, realized that their plan had failed, that the guard they trusted was actually a fool. Meanwhile, Fuyumi and I successfully landed on the demon world's Acropolis, marking a new chapter in our journey.